Hey you guys, it's Katie and I cannot wait to take you through this office renovation from start to finish. We've only lived in this house for about 2.5 weeks now, and about a week after we moved in, we started noticing this dog and cat urine smell getting stronger and stronger in the home office. So we tore out the carpet, one thing led to another, and now 5 days later, we have a beautiful new space. I wish I had a real accurate before photo, but I do not, with the carpet still in the video, or in the frame, I guess, in the picture. So here I'm just showing you guys removing the carpet on Insta stories, and basically on Instagram, I just took you through getting that carpet out of there because that needed to be done ASAP, and then tearing out all the little tack strips. And that's where you guys come in here on YouTube, where I'm actually pulling out my camera and showing you the before of this downstairs office. I love how cool it stays down here, and this is a really fun place. Kudos to whoever took the time to measure those stripes going around the ceiling. But here's where we're at, with just plain concrete and a bunch of little holes going around the floor where I tore out the tack strips. Here you can see I'm just taking some concrete patching stuff and putting it over the holes. Someone had an awesome tip on Instagram, and they said if you actually just whack the nails sideways instead of yanking them out, it won't leave giant divots. It will just pop off the top of the nail head, which would have been brilliant, but unfortunately I had already done the damage. I wanted to wait at least 12 hours before I sanded the little concrete patches, and so I decided I might as well just start painting because we were going to have to paint a lot of this space. And I already tore out trim along the doors, and there was just trim on 2 walls. So we tore that out as well, and then I obviously took off the outlet covers. And that's kind of all I did to prep this room. The color I'm using is Bare Ultra Pure White. I like to just go with the freshest and brightest, plainest white that I can find in every house I've painted, which has been every house I've lived in. A lot of you are probably going to wonder what that little hole is in the tree, and it goes into a little closet playroom, like a little reading nook for the kids. I just think it's such a fun little addition to this house. It was already there, so I didn't put that in. Hey Louie. You got a paint all over you. Here I am just cutting in the ceiling. What I'm not going to show you guys is the 3 coats that I had to put on these white walls. So primer and paint in one, I do not think so. We had to do 3 coats, but it's not really rewarding to see the second and third coats. That first one's really the only one that's fun to watch. And here I'm coming in and painting the ceiling. I ended up painting 2 coats on the ceiling. The ceiling looked pretty light until you got that white right up against it, and then it turned kind of a little beigey brown. So I decided to paint the ceiling as well. And this is my little helper, Leon. He is 3, and I'm actually not going to keep paint on this wall. I'm gonna put wood over it. So I let him make a little mess and have drips go down the wall and all that. While I was waiting for the ceiling to dry to do the second coat, I decided to kind of prep the doors. It's helpful to have a lot of different project stuff on hand, so you could do one thing while something else is curing or drying or whatever the case may be. I found myself kind of popcorning back and forth between multiple projects at once. Lighting was kind of bad at that angle, so I didn't show you painting the whole wall, but I painted that whole wall black, and I'm all done with the white completely, so I was able to wash out my paintbrush and just do black for the remainder of my painting. I went back and forth on the door whether I wanted to use a brush or a roller. I ended up brushing out all of the angles in the door and then rolling the door for the first coat. And then for the second coat, I ended up doing the entire thing with a brush. For all of the paint, I went with an eggshell kind of color. And this is the exact same color I used on the wall. Eggshell color, I mean like eggshell finish. So I'm not gonna show you guys again me doing the second coats on the door because everything just took a really long time. Here I am though, going in and hand sanding with these little scrubby sanders because I didn't want to buy the electric sander tool, all these little bumps. And this was actually, oh, you saw my husband come in there and get me. I had to turn off the camera for that. But I kept knocking my pinkies up against the wall and they were bleeding by the time I was done. And this was definitely the hardest, well, one of the hardest parts of the entire process. I didn't get them that smooth, but I definitely got the biggest chips and bumps off. I would definitely recommend buying a $40 sander or whatever, or renting one maybe, if you were going to do this and you wanted a really professional finish, but I wasn't that concerned about it, I guess. And then I did end up having paint chunks here on the floor, so I just scraped off some of those, and I swept and mopped this room as well after this, but I did not show me doing those two things. But that's basically all I did to prep this floor for painting. I will try to link the exact things that I used down below in the description box. Right now I'm just putting on the primer. You really want to put on a primer so that the paint sticks to the concrete. And I asked my husband, I was like, will you stay up with me if I put this primer on? Because you have to wait for an hour before you can paint, but you can't wait more than 4 hours. So it's not something you can like do the night before and then do in the morning. And the painting process is actually, there's a long cure time. So you can't put on a second coat for 24 hours, which is why I really wanted to get this first coat on tonight. And then you aren't supposed to put furniture on it or anything for 72 hours. And so because I was going to be moving a lot of wood in this room and doing things that would be hard on the floors, I really wanted to get this coat on to cure so that I could move on with the rest of the process in the room. And this is what we were waiting on for a while, actually, was just for this paint cure. Something you want to keep in mind is you don't want to get in a place where you have to walk over this. So make sure you start in one corner and work your way to the door. That's really important. So the next day I didn't do anything, and this is 24 hours later, again, late at night after the kids are asleep. And all I did today was just put in the hardware for the door handles. And it was my first time doing that, so thankfully it was actually really easy. I was really stressed out. One of the doors, I had to kind of hammer in the thing. Anyways, it's hard to explain. I don't know the correct names for any of these parts, but the door worked. Okay, so the floors had hardened for I think 2 to 3 days at this point, and I felt comfortable walking on them. So I bought a saw, a circle saw, and this was my first time ever using a circle saw. So I was really nervous, and I was going to cut my pine boards down to size. I did not have any kind of safety goggles, and I was nervous about getting sawdust in my eyes. And so my son Leon went and got goggles for himself and a pretty stylish pair of goggles for me. And they were too small, so the nose flap would not go over my nose. I did end up buying a really fine finishing saw blade for this circle saw. So basically it has really tiny teeth on it instead of the big teeth that came with the actual saw when I bought it. This saw was only like $50, so it was a great buy for how often I used it. I completely wore down the blade actually and had to change it at the end. But because my saw blade was so fine, the sawdust was so fine, none of it sprayed up in my eyes, and so I actually stopped wearing the goggles halfway through. I felt like they were more dangerous actually because they were so blurry and they kind of blurred my vision. So if you see me not wearing safety goggles the rest of the time, that is why. So now I'm going down to the room and I am finding with the stud finder the studs on the wall because I want to nail directly into studs, not just into drywall. This brad nailer was again super inexpensive. This is my first time ever using a nail gun. I knew though that I did not want one where you had to have an air compressor and an air hose and all that. My dad had one of those growing up, and while I never used it, it was just so much paraphernalia to haul everywhere you wanted to do your project. So this gun was awesome, and I already had a drill, so I didn't need to buy a battery, and I highly recommend it. I will actually link one down below because this was $129, and I used 1 3/4 inch brad nails. So you can see the second part of this wall is actually narrower than the top part, so that's why I was just remeasuring the space. And there's a little ledge there in the middle of the walls. Unfortunately, I ran out of pine boards, and so I just moved on to doing trim. So this is another thing, like if you run out of something, it's nice to have another project. If you're in the project mode and your kids are napping, like mine are napping here. Trim was too wide to fit in between the door and the wall, so I had to rip it down. I am really bad at ripping things on a circle saw. I do wish I had a table saw for this because it would just cut such a cleaner line and be so easy, but that's just not something that I need right now. So this worked, but it was a terrible cut. As you guys can see, it's really gappy between the wall and really crooked, but I'll show you how I fix that later. This closet was actually built on top of the carpet, which is really weird. So I wasn't able to tear out the carpet in this closet. And so I just had to kind of stuff it under the cracks and have the trim make it work. There were a lot of hard trim angles in here. They weren't just regular 45s. There were some 30-degree angles and 15-degree angles, and it was complicated to say the least. So I didn't actually film me doing the trim for most of it, but as you can see, we got it in there, and there's a lot of mistakes, but we trimmed out the doors, the bottom. I used a 5-inch trim, 5-inch by 1/2 inch, and then I trimmed out the window as well. And now I'm just going through and picking up this construction war zone. What you're seeing on all the walls is sawdust. It got so crazy dusty in here. I didn't even realize it until my black wall was like, well, you guys see how it looks. You're watching it. I do love how the painted concrete turned out. I wasn't that concerned about it because we would be covering it with a big rug anyways to keep the noise down in this room, but it looked beautiful. I left all the normal natural cracks and only filled those holes that you guys saw at the beginning, but it just had a really cool look to it, and I would definitely do it again if I was somewhere else that had a concrete subfloor. Here's how I'm fixing that crack. I'm using caulk, and caulk covers a multitude of sins. I was planning on it covering a multitude of sins, and so I'm grateful it did, because if it didn't, this was gonna look like amateur hour. But as it is, it actually looks pretty good, although professional, I'm sure, would be able to tell the difference between my work and someone who actually knew what they were doing. Okay, you guys, I am here in the room, the office, and I just cannot believe how beautifully it turned out. It's everything that I wanted. We just went out and styled it today, so I'm going to tell you where I got everything. Everything should be currently in stock, and we did the furniture very, very affordably. Actually, a couple pieces we did get off Facebook Marketplace, so that's not going to be in stock. But Facebook Marketplace is a great place to look if you're looking for affordable furniture. So let's show the room. So here I am standing in the corner of the office as soon as you come through the door, and I just cannot believe just like how much this place has transformed. Starting here, this is my husband's desk space, and so this is going to be for his office. I love how I got this at Ross and it just tied in the light pine with the pine that I have going on over here. So that was fun. We already had the desk, the plant, and this chair, which was in the construction zone. I still have to go through and scrape off all the paint, but we'll get to that eventually. We still have a little bit of construction to do. I love this rug. I really didn't know what to do with a rug. I was looking at these big, bold geometric patterns, and I love what we ended up going with. This is just a rug from Ross, you guys. It was only $100, like $99, and I love going to Ross for rugs. You kind of have to stop in and out because they only keep like 1 or 2 rugs in stock of a certain type, but because of that, you get them way cheaper. So this rug is a super high quality rug. It feels incredible. None of the rugs I have from Ross like pill or slough, and I'm excited to add this one because to get a rug this size, this is an 8 by 10 foot rug, it was gonna cost a minimum of $200. So getting one for half the price was super cool. These chairs are the steals that we found on Facebook Marketplace. My husband found them and they're like in incredible condition. They were $30 for the 2 of them. On this one, I'm going to have to staple this part back up. But literally that's it. We just got them this afternoon, so I haven't had any time to do anything with them. There you go. You're seeing like there's a little bit of wear and tear on these, but for $30, you can't beat that. So I'm really happy with those chairs. The upholstery is all good, and so that's really fun. And then I got this table at Ross as well. It was only about $40. Still have to cut off the tag here, but I just love the grain in the wood. I think it's a fun contrast to the grain in the wood back there. And this plant was, I think, like $13 or $14 at Ross too. So this space is where we're gonna record our podcast. Elisha's gonna record real estate videos here. Elisha will probably also film Voteberg Music Academy videos here. And I love how it's kind of, the way this room is shaped, we're able to have different little nooks, and it feels like, it's a pretty small room, but it feels like there's total different setups within the room. We can stage different areas, I guess. So this is kind of our filming corner. And then these sound panels, so I couldn't show myself in the time lapse putting these up. As you can see, I still have like some cleanup to do in here. Fresh construction, but these are sound absorption panels because we went with the stained or painted concrete. We really needed to tone down the sound in this room. It's kind of hard to see, but I love how the pattern looked against the black wall. Here we have the little music corner. I got this at Ross and this at Ross. Elisha doesn't like to play his instruments with arms on the chairs, so this is a fun little ottoman. Someone could sit here and he could just play music, or you know, someone can sit here and visit. And then this, I think I'm gonna just put a few books in here, maybe a little throw blanket in the winter when it gets cold, I'm not sure. But I love how that little sitting area in the corner looks. And this wall isn't completely done yet because we have Elisha's fiddle that is not here right now that we need to hang on this wall. So I wouldn't have done 2 and 2 things if we weren't planning on the fiddle coming, and that's gonna hang right there. So this is the music room slash filming studio slash Elisha's office. I just love how this thick white trim turned out too. I didn't really show me doing that because it was so stressful, but I love how it turned out. And this plant I got at Home Depot. I have a lot of live plants in my house, and I've gotten the majority of them at Home Depot. They've held up really good. And I just love how this adds like some greenery against the wall. I feel like this looks like a little Middle Eastern, I don't know, village or something. If you look through this little door, you can see I trimmed it out, but construction stopped here. I'm going to be painting that floor as well, the same color, putting a little rug in there, repainting the blue in the kids' nook. But for right now, we just stopped construction right at that line. The only thing I'm considering adding at some point is a tapestry right here, just to take down the sound a little bit more. Maybe something kind of bold with these colors in it. Something I have not done yet is paint the trim. So I did caulk it, I did cover the nail holes, well, kind of, that's kind of a bad cover job, but I did not paint the trim yet. I'm just gonna come in and do that some evening on my own time. But I wanted to be able to show you where it is at least for today's video. And something else that I love that I did when I trimmed out this window, because this window didn't have any trim on it at all, I put a pine board here too, and I just love how that looks. It ties in the pine with the pine. I don't know, this is just a really fun space. You'll probably be seeing me film here quite often. But love you guys. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. I hope it inspired you to maybe tackle that project around your home that you have been putting off or want to do and don't think you can do. You guys, I am so not good at carpentry. I learned so much in this room, just the angles. It seems so straightforward to cut an angle, and yet it was so difficult for me. And I just learned a lot, and you learn by doing, so don't be afraid to mess up. And I guess if you really want to try something, then do it. If you're new here, click the subscribe button if you stayed this long, because I think you'll like the other videos that are coming out. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Bye, love you.